All right.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason one of the things I'm going to say, I've made things to
Hey, Cheyenne, can you check your email?
Are you guys ready? I'd like to bring this meeting to order. I'm going to ask Reverend Alderman Davis to give us an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Almighty, most merciful and loving God, as always, we thank and praise you for the many blessings that you bestow upon Southport, our people, our town itself, our visitors, our businesses. You are well aware, O Lord, of the tragedy that struck. And we ask you today that as we go about the business of the city, that we also go about the business of doing the work you gave us to do, which is to love one another as you have loved us. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to take a moment to read the ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Not hearing any. If something comes up and a conflict arises, please just raise your hand and we'll address it at that time. Madam Clerk, are you ready for public comment?
I am. Chris Wren. Are you speaking for?
I'm speaking, I just signed it.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Mr. Ashley?
Good morning, Larry Ashley, 637 Wild Rose Way. Alderman Davis, thank you for your prayer this morning. There's a lot that's going through all of our minds. And it's hard for our community to come back together. And I think doing the goodwill of the board and everything is just a great way to start our Monday off and as well as the week. And I'm thankful to everybody that had a role in that weekend's events. No matter how great or no matter how little, our community is coming together. And I'm sincerely grateful for the leadership of everybody on this board, everybody in the community, police, fire, emergency medical services. It just shows you how, as a community, we can come together. We can still have differences, but boy, when the going gets tough, we really get going and we take care of ourselves. So thank you. This morning, you're about to sign a contract that is almost $900,000 for the design of the police station and meeting chambers, which will be used by many. This design cost stands a good possibility of exceeding $1 million. The cost of construction, which will be based on the final design, will be in the millions of dollars. I have no doubt about that, and I'm sure you don't either. And while funding has not been determined, and Raleigh doesn't seem to be in a giving mood with all that they have going on, the cost of this design and construction could be borne solely by the taxpayers of Southport. Well, I hope that this is not the case. We need to be prepared for that. Recent political campaign statements suggesting that it won't be used as a government building are simply untrue, and a few candidates for aldermen are simply trying to create a controversy that doesn't exist to instill fear and curry votes. We can do better. That decision was made by you over about a year ago, so we've all moved on. And this is the design. It's going to be a police station. It's going to be a community building. It's going to be aldermen's chambers. Let's all face that. And if there's anybody thinking otherwise, you need to talk to you guys and take a look at the minutes from last year. It's been a full year. Let's move on. We all know that the courthouse's redesign is to be primarily used by the police department and the aldermen as a meeting area. That's a given. However, it will be used by other boards and the community. The building is also very historic. Years ago, besides being used as a courthouse, it was also used as a townhouse where not only were graduations and performances held, it was also used as a social gathering place by the citizens of Southport. I can see this building returning to a number of functions for use by our community. Well, I have no doubt that the police chief and the design firm will do a great job of design because of the many uses of this building by the public, those who are going to pay for it. The design work should not be done in a vacuum. So one of the ordinances that we have regarding the planning board, and you've heard this before, so I'm going to repeat it anyways. The planning board shall review with the city manager and other city officials and report as recommendations to the Board of Aldermen upon the extent, location, design of all public structures and facilities, on the acquisition and disposal of public properties, and on the establishment of building lines, et cetera, et cetera. So you've heard this. Didn't work as well in the past as it should have. We're trying to do a better job. We're trying to make sure that the planning board has a role in it. In the interest of real collaboration, I'm asking you, the Board of Aldermen, to create a courthouse design building committee to ensure that the courthouse redesign meets your goals, the goals of the police department, and the goals of the community. The committee would not only be made up of police department members and Board of Aldermen members, but also members of the planning board and members of the community, including those with a historical interest. You did this with a comprehensive plan where you had a wide-ranging input, which in turn created a fabulous plan. You're voting on it this week. It shows that this approach works and it works well. This project is going to cost a great deal of money, and having input from all corners, including historical, are crucial to having a building that can be used well into the future. It will be used by taxpayers and paid for by taxpayers, and they should have representation during the design process. Please give consideration to creating a courthouse design committee. The community and the building will be a better place for it. Thank you.
Miss Bonnie Bray.
Ms. Bray, go right ahead. I forgot to say something before we all started. It had nothing to do with you. We have a lawsuit against the city from the 416 East Bay Street, and we will not be able to talk about that either before the meeting, after the meeting, walking down the street, or anything else. And I just want to point out that this meeting is videotaped and recorded. So if somebody has comments about that, both sides could have access to that. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Bonnie Bray, 515 Quartermaster Drive in Southport. I'm here to speak about the wisdom of spending $866,000 of taxpayer money for this architectural services contract for the to transform the old courthouse into a police station and council chambers. But first, I'd like to present a little history. There are people on the campaign trail currently talking about the history of this, reusing this building. A large part of our history involves Up Your Arts and also the newly incorporated Center for the Arts, blaming those, saying on the campaign trail that the intention of those two nonprofit groups was to steal the building from taxpayers and from the people of Southport, and also to cause lots of money to be spent by the taxpayers. This is categorically false, and the people that are perpetrating these, making these stories up out of whole cloth, know that this information is false. It was never the intention of either of these two nonprofits to spend taxpayer money to renovate the building and turn it into a community-based performing arts center. And it was never the intention that the city would give up the building. The city was not going to give the building to these two nonprofits, to the people of Southport. The only thing left back in 2019, one of the other lies is that this has been going on for years and years and years. The first MOU for using this building was signed in November 2019. 4 years later, Mosley prepared a study about how the best use of the building. The city commissioned a study from Mosley architects to figure out the best use of the building for the city. They did not recommend putting a police station there. The Center for the Arts was established in October 2023. The last election was held in November 2023. And in February 2024, the Center for the Arts requested a meeting with the city of Southport, new administration, to talk about, basically involve other people in the decision and the wisdom of what the best and highest use of this building was. In December 2024, without ever having had a meeting with Up Your Arts or the Center for the Arts, as promised, the aldermen voted to reserve the building for exclusive use of city property. In February 2025, Mosley Architects estimated that the construction of the building would be $4.9 million. It did not include the cost for architectural services, so that was simply for construction, $4.9 million. But they agreed at the time in the city and presented to the aldermen that even though the police department was growing, because the police department was growing at a rate that was really not sustainable for that building, they would have access to that building, would have police headquarters in that building for maybe 7 years. Nothing has changed since then, except that Indigo is now, or Waterway is predicted to add at least 6 new officers in addition to the rest of the city growing. It is a growing police department. They need their own headquarters. They don't need to be stuffed into a building that's already too small for them almost, and added the chambers on top of that, closing down the building for any other kind of public use, such as Larry Ashley just talked about, that used to happen in Southport's past. It's a gem of a building for the city of Southport. Okay, but just like Larry said, we have moved on. The problem is we don't have $866,000 to spend on this building. We just came out of a budget season where we were facing a $1.4 million deficit, and magically we are no longer facing that deficit. But one of the big takeaways for the celebration of passing this budget that included city raises for city staff and included all kinds of things. It included $200,000 for a new accounting system that we could have gotten for free from the League of the Municipalities. So there were a lot of things going on with this year's budget, but the biggest takeaway was that we did not need to raid the fund balance to support a year's worth of expenditures. Instead, now I don't even know what HDR, the architectural firm that your agenda item involves. I don't even know what their new construction costs are. Mosley said 4.9 million, but Mosley is long gone. So correct me if I'm wrong, it's not been made public what the new construction estimate is, but we can deal with this $866,000 for architectural services that we no longer have any certainty. We have certainty that we're probably not going to get money from Raleigh because of the state legislators' budget issues. We know we don't have it now. We know we have $866 million because the taxpayers of Southport over many, many years have accumulated that money and have put it in your safekeeping in the fund balance, which is where you're going to take it and use it for a construction that's not even going to start for another year. By the time that construction starts, it's going to take another couple of years to build the darn thing. And it's only going to be good for 7 years. This is nuts. This is just nuts. And I hope that you table this agenda item after you hear all the particulars from staff, because it needs a public hearing. I'm outraged as a citizen. I am outraged that you turned down a perfectly good chance to get something for the community, not close it up for a building that doesn't even have enough parking for the current load of police vehicles. The police need a new headquarters. Mosley recommend or one of the firms that there's quite a lot of money spent back a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, trying to decide what the best use of this building is. Mosley recommended it not be a police station. There was a study done, I think from high caps or staff, that estimated a new police station would cost 8.4 million, and that included the land. And that was barely discussed. But it seems to me that if we have a fire station that was built to last 40 years, certainly the police are entitled to a building that is designed to last more than 7. So don't be talking about protecting Southport taxpayers. Don't be talking about the property taxes. Our property taxes are 2 cents more per 100 now than they were in 2016. So we need protection from unwise spending decisions. We need fiscal responsibility. And I hope that you exercise it. And I'm sorry, but that's my phone. I forgot to turn it off. So thank you.
Elsie Hines? Oh, Elsie Hines? That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. The next agenda item is the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, before we approve the agenda, can I ask that I'd like to make a motion to remove item 1 from the agenda. Really, for transparency, I think a $900,000 budget amendment ought to be at a Thursday night meeting and not our Monday morning meeting. But I want to emphasize, with that said, I want to emphasize that I appreciate staff's work. And I support the selection of HDR. So none of that is this conversation. But before we move forward with awarding this contract, we need to understand how we're going to pay for the entire project, not just this first piece. As I read it, this contract outlines a 21-month timeline for completion, 8 months for planning, 13 months for construction, with a clause stating that after 24 months, any extension of the contract of the architect's services would be billed as additional services. So while the proposed budget amendment is $900,000, we're really committing the city to roughly $5 or $6 million over the next 2 years. Staff notes mentioned that alternative funding options are being explored. And I feel like we need to see those clearly before we start the meter running. Potential state funds and grants could help, but those are uncertain. And in the end, we need to be prepared to cover the full costs ourselves. So I'd like to ask that loan options be included in that discussion.
Is there a second to that motion? There's a motion and a second. Is there any what that voice was that's Mr. Carroll.
The voice of God.
Yeah, sometimes you think that. Anyways, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the topic?
Well, I've seconded because Alderman Mostow is right. This is a whole lot of money. And it's not a particular surprise. Back in, I believe it was August, the two architectural firms that had responded to our request and appeared to be actually capable of doing this job. They came and each of them gave a presentation, went with the alderman and members of the public, including the planning board chairman, and visited the courthouse, spent a great deal of time talking about what needed to be done, what could be done, and so on. And I was not surprised by this price. It does look like construction and design costs go up exponentially, almost day by day. So this was not a surprise. But I do think that for this amount of money, we need a little bit more information before we say, okay, just today. I But look at my one question about this is, can we get this on the Thursday agenda, which is jam-packed already, or do we want to wait until November?
So let me speak broadly to the financing option. Myself and staff have been looking into what our financing options will be absent state appropriation. We've been in contact with the LGC, attorneys and finance directors and advisors that we would need to go forward with that process. The LGC will not take up any potential loans, or we will not have any estimates of what it will cost us for loans until they have architecture drawings in place. So while we can get perhaps a rough estimate of what a loan would be, we can't even get honed in numbers until we have those drawings and construction documents in place per LGC.
Would it be possible to talk with a bank about loans like the firehouse, how that loan was structured? It was basically, I think, a $250,000 a year for 20 years. I think that's kind of how,
Right.
so if we could just get an idea, I just want to know, given rates and municipal, and just a general, because once the meter starts running, we're
Right.
off to the races.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we can,
That's the only thing I'm
I
asking.
mean, I think we can probably come up with something in general. I think, though, it's two steps. I mean, this first step has to take place regardless. So this 900,000 has to be spent whether we move forward and need a loan or not. So I think, yes, we need to know those data points, but to the whole conversation of architecture designs, I don't think it holds us up from doing that.
I still think that we ought to wait, if not this Thursday, if not till this Thursday, until the very next meeting, which I believe is, trying to think, is that November the 3rd? Yeah. Um, to give a greater awareness to the public about what this is, what the cost is, and perhaps a presentation from you too, Mr. City Manager, about the financing facts. And, in the public comment, perhaps, I'm wondering, in listening to Ms. Bray, if we did not do this, what are the options for the building?
I'm sorry, do you want to re-litigate that whole issue?
No, I do not. What I want to do, I think we've made our commitment. We're moving forward on the building, but before we make any kind of commitment on the 800,000 or 866, whatever it is, we should have a broader, excuse me, a presentation to a greater number of people.
This is recorded. We can give a summary on Thursday if you would like that. But I'm totally perplexed. If you want more information, Tom is sitting right there. The whole purpose of this is for him to give a presentation. How this board votes after that is yet to be decided. But I don't understand the reasoning. If you want more information, the guy's sitting right there to give us all the information. We have the manager right here who gave you a summary that if we don't do this, you can't get the specifics that you're looking for. So I would tend to think that we'd want to hear from Tom Zellick to talk about the whole process, because it's more than just taking an Etch-a-Sketch and drawing a building on it. It covers a lot more things like that. It covers it's a comprehensive services, includes full architectural designs and drawings and construction documents, bidding and construction administration. So they're overseeing the construction of the building. I want to make sure, because I've seen a lot of noise out there about, Karen, I know you know this, about we're paying 880, whatever it's going to be at the end.
So, and I just, looking at what our financial advisor has talked about, some of their generalized numbers, we would look at between principal and interest, we would be looking at around $780,000 for the first 4 fiscal years. And then that would drop down after the initial principal payments to $600,000, $500,000, and $400,000 a year. So we're looking from anywhere from $400,000 to $800,000 a year in interest and principal payments, as a rough estimate based on what interest rates might be doing today. So we have some of that data available, but again, it's going to variable when we get to those hard designs.
So another point that was discussed was, and it was brought up in the conversation already this morning, is that the monies that potentially could come from the state are being held up because of the budget process, and we have no control over that. I have been told by 2 of our representatives that if you decide to go out and get a bank loan or a bond, you could do either one of those, that you should make sure that there's no penalty for paying it off early, because they are still committed to giving us the money to do this, except the way the North Carolina legislature is set up, unless there's an agreement on the budget, as there was no agreement last time on the budget, then I'm going to use the term, they don't use the same term, I'm sorry, earmarks. I'm going to use that term. There's no earmarks for anybody to do anything. There is some money out of a transportation fund that could be used for the Moore Street project, but that's a different topic. So if you hear us talking about that later on. So they are still committed to do this, to get it. We are still committed to independently look at all of the grants that are out there. And one of the things that I was educated on during this whole process as we move forward is to get these grants for a historic building, you have to have complete control of the building. Well, we were never going to give this building away to anybody. So we do have complete control of the building. And so that's one of the major steps you have to do that. The other part is, and the group was given a contract, a template contract. Their spokesman was given a template contract for what that would look like. And part of the problem with that is that the way these contracts are written is, if the future board were to fall out of favor with I'm going to say arts group, whatever their name might be at that time, then they would be given 60 days to vacate the building. Any and all money that they had got through grants or any other ways would then become the property of the city of Southport. So getting a grant under those circumstances, when you don't have complete control of the building, might be somewhat difficult because of those 2 factors. So we don't have that as a stipulation to us, all of us, because we own the building. I still strongly suggest that we listen to Tom Z and his presentation, and then after that, if there's a vote, there's a vote, and whatever the vote is.
Perhaps I haven't made myself clear. We will be able to reach more people. You know that Thursday nights, this place is packed. And there will be a number of things on the agenda that people will want to be here for, not necessarily this. But if we can at least wait until Thursday so that more people can hear the engineer, do this presentation, explain how you get from 0 to 800,000+, and what all of the details of this. There are people who have talked to me about this in the last few days, seem to think that we're about to pay all this money for, somebody's sketch on the back of a paper napkin. This is such a complicated process, and the details are intense. I've renovated 9 different houses in my long life, And in every one of them, I wanted to strangle the life out of the contractor and the person who had done the design. It is a long process. You have to have every detail taken care of, which they are obviously proposing to do. And it's so much money and it is so detailed. I just think that we need to try to reach as many people as possible with this information. Yes, people can go and look at this later on the recorded version of this meeting. Yes, they can look at the packet. It's on the website. I don't know how many people do that. The people who want to know about what we're doing and have a particular interest in city government will be here on Thursday night. Let's do it then. And maybe let's see if there's anything Thursday night that we can shift a little bit later. I mean, we're already looking at about a 3.5, 4 hour meeting, I think.
I just have a question, and maybe it happened before I joined the board. I thought originally the Monday meetings were set up to be presentation meetings. I thought that was the point of the Monday meetings, for these kind of presentations to be done prior to the Thursday meeting. So we could go into the Thursday meeting and potentially do a vote at the Thursday meeting where we already have the information in front of us. The public had the ability already to go back and look at the meeting if they had questions about it, could come to public comment on the Thursday meeting with that information already in hand, instead of coming to the Thursday meeting without any information, standing up in public comment, pontificating about what might have been in a presentation. I think that it's important that we set the presentations on the Mondays so we can then prepare any additional information that's needed for a potential vote on Thursday.
That was,
The
you were
Monday
absolutely
meetings were
right.
originally scheduled to be agenda reviews for the Thursday meeting. So if you go back in the minutes and you look at the purpose of those meetings, that was the purpose, an agenda review. So we could ask questions, we could get information up front and make sure that we had everything we needed to be presented on the Thursday meeting. So I think that a presentation of this scale needs to be done in front of a greater audience. And most people don't even retain what they see when they're there in person, much less have to take the time to go back and look at something because we put it on a Monday agenda.
Alderman Kelly, yes. I think it was about 3.5 years ago, we recognized that we needed another meeting. That Thursday, we were meeting up into, into like 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock on Thursdays. And it just was too much. So Alderman Allen made the suggestion that we have a workshop on the first Monday. And that was really good. And we did it that way for about, and a workshop is a non-voting meeting, to hear presentations, to discuss, get more information about what the agenda items are going to be and so on. It was less than a year, I believe, before we realized we needed to make that a voting meeting because we had so much on our plate. And so I'll have to look back at the minutes, but we did take a vote officially to make the first Monday a voting meeting. And so that's what we've been doing. And this week is an unusual week. It doesn't often happen that the Monday meeting and the Thursday meeting are on the same week. We at least have about, 8-10 days between them. And I know the city manager has suggested that maybe we make the Thursday meeting, we move it to the third Thursday, a subject for another day. But we're back to what are we going to do with this information today? I think it's crucially important information, and we should seek to reach as many people with it as possible.
Let me ask a question here. Why not since Tom Z has gone through a great deal of effort to put this together, why not let him proceed with his presentation? If we have to make it again on Thursday, big deal. But I think we need to hear it. And then if we decide to vote or not vote, we can make, again, gather more information. We'll put it to the Thursday meeting, but I think we need to hear it now to see what he's got to say. Now, when talking about Mosley and the other company, when they came in here and did their presentation to us, company we chose made a polished presentation. They went out and did a whole bunch of stuff. Sat here for quite a while, did a nice job. We went over to the building, took a look around. Mosley came in, walked in, said, "Hi, how you doing?" We walked over, and that was about it. Now it's just a matter of optics. But I think that's one of the things that swayed us in making a decision. And I think if I remember correctly, our vote was 6-0 to go with the company that we went with. Mosley just came here and did nothing. Now, they did a heck of a job putting it together in the presentation they made to staff. But when they came here and made a presentation to us, the people who are going to make the decision, they just kind of showed up and waved.
So I agree with letting the public hear, but we have the media over here to our right taking pictures, and you're going to have a presentation, and it's going to be in the newspaper Wednesday. And instead of an agenda that they don't go and see, they definitely are looking at the state board pilot. So let's give them the information so that they will come on Thursday prepared, that we can be educated as to what's in the document, rather than let it be a surprise on a Thursday. There's no media on that for a week. So let's hear the information. We don't have to vote today. Matter of fact, I don't want to vote today, but I want to hear what he has to say. That's it. Anybody?
Any other comment? I'm sorry.
I bet I know how Tom would vote. if
Hey,
he
low. One person at a time.
No, I'm good with that, Alderman Spencer. I just want to make sure we're not voting so that then we have another discussion on a Thursday, because this is
I agree with that as well. As long as we're not going to take a vote today, I think that seeing the presentation would be a good thing.
So I'll withdraw my motion.
Sorry.
Okay, the motion is withdrawn. Is there any other motions before I proceed?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I'm sorry, yes.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Robert?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Tom, would you be so kind as to come forward?
Sorry, but I don't have a huge presentation. Basically, I'll just give you an overview of how we got to where we are today. Board decided that building should be a police station. We went and did an RFQ, request for qualifications for architects. We received about 10. We whittled it down. The board decided they wanted to bring 3 firms in for an interview and a walk through the building, which was done. Only 2 firms wanted to come in for that. That was HDR and Mosley. And at the end of that, the board gave direction to myself and Noah to start negotiation with HDR to come up with a contract price to design the building and oversee the construction of it. Their first proposal came in significantly higher. There was back and forth between HDR and myself, and brought it down to the working number of $866,111. When you're coming up with costs for architecture or engineering services, you generally are going to assume it's going to be about 10 to 15% of the final construction cost. Here, we're estimating the final construction cost to be somewhere between 5 and 8 million. We really don't know because prices are changing daily. So my expectation on how much it was going to cost was going to be between maybe $550,000 to $750,000, $800,000. So it's a little over, not much. But like I said, in North Carolina, There's a quality-based selection that has to be done. It can't be based on a price or anything. And the board gave direction to negotiate with HDR, which we did. So just a little specific would be the construction administration of this project is about $210,000 and another 50,000 for other services that are associated with it. So it's about 260,000 is just the construction side of this project. Noah is correct with getting any kind of loans or any kind of bonding. You do need a set of plans before anybody will give you money for anything. So
That's the same way we had to do with the stormwater project as well, is it not? Is it not why we did the mapping of the stormwater, why we had the engineering study, and then we could go out and get
correct.
money?
And, to go to the stormwater, which is actually due at 5 o'clock today, we have to have a 60% design set of plans complete before we're considered for that. So yes, you need to have a set of plans, not an idea in your head, not a piece of paper that says we want it to be this and it'll have A, B, C, D. You need a set of plans to get money. Also, part of this contract involves applying for 2 grants that they'll research and see what the best grant available is for us, and that's included in the project scope and doing all the grant work behind that.
Could you help us? What was the original quote?
The original quote was about 1.3 million.
And so through negotiations, you got it down to the current price.
Got it down about 400,000 or 500,000.
I want to make sure that people knew that we just weren't taking the original quote.
When the first number came in, I pretty much fell out of my chair and called Noah directly, and he kind of responded accordingly. So we came up with a game plan to go forward, and that's what we did. And like I said, we got it down to this number, and we're, confident that this can be accomplished in this time. You're talking a historic building. So you have to deal with historic preservation office, and that adds cost to it right there. And time.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did too.
Go ahead.
About the contract. So mentioning the grants, I saw that in there. Of course, given today's climate, we don't know what all that might mean.
Correct.
If they did apply for grants, would they administer those grants? Meaning
Yes.
they would see it all the way through to the end of the administration of the grant?
Yes, it's for grant application administration.
And close
Start
out.
to finish
They would be
and
closing
close
it
out. Yes.
I seem to remember that when they were doing their presentation to us, they talked about grants. What I don't remember is whether we asked or whether they volunteered that they have a good track record getting grants.
I recall during their presentation, they spoke about a bunch of grants that they had gotten for the Cape Fear Bridge, several $1 million for that project. They do have an in-house grant person that works on that. So yes, they are familiar, and they have gotten grants in the past. I would be confident in them with that.
Frank, go ahead.
Tom, I think one of the things you said as far as getting money, you have to have something in hand, just like if you're starting a business, you want to get money, you got to have a business plan. This is what you're going to do. This is what you can show them. This is what I want to do, and not just something that's in your head. So the basic concept is the same.
Correct.
Seems like when they did a presentation, they had timelines. Are we holding them to a specific timeline on giving this material back to us? Is there a contractual deadline for them getting?
Yes,
this to us?
there is. And I'm going to throw a caveat out there about that timeline. State permits, especially with historic preservation, are not a given. It's not a rubber stamp. That can be delayed. So if there is a delay in the permitting process, we have to, grant extensions for that. If there wasn't historic preservation involved, not an issue. Historic preservation throws a wrench in everything.
What is the time frame?
Uh,
It's all right. Seemed like 9 months to a
It was
year.
close. It was 9 months to a year to go
Yes.
out to bid, and then it was a 18-month construction phase, I believe. I'm
Yes, sir.
trying to recall.
Thank you.
I, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Alderman Kelly, go ahead.
Not really to Tom, but just as a thought process, as it appears that this year the state budget will not give us funds for this. That's not to say that it wouldn't happen next year or the following year. So while we might be looking at the upfront costs, there is still potential to have state funding that comes in addition to whatever grants we might be able to get from our partners in this. So, and I think that we have commitment from our state legislators that they will continue to try to help us with this cost. So I think that moving forward makes a whole lot of sense in this.
And I'm looking at the way they broke their fee down to get to those design, completed design plans. You're looking at around 350,000. So, we would be in for 350,000 before we actually go out to bid.
So.
And that would help us with the grants.
Right.
That would help us with
Well, and
earmarks and
Well, and I'm
everything.
sure it would help with our state legislators to take that to their fellow
Correct.
representatives as well. So with that piece of it is not to vote today, but is this something that we vote for the whole kit and caboodle on Thursday? Or is this something that we vote the 350,000 for the design and then go back again? How does that work?
So the whole $900,000 budget amendment would be approved at one time. That would just move the fund balance from the general fund to the capital fund so that it's in there. So we don't have to keep coming back. So, we're not spending all that money at one time, but as they invoice for the work they do, those funds are available to expend from.
When we move money from one, just for education for everybody, when we move money from one fund to the other, where you're going to put the money, is that just sitting there idle, or is that sitting there in an account that draws interest?
So all of our funds draw interest. So when we move these funds, it'll still collect that interest.
Okay, so we're not losing the interest
No.
part of it. Okay. Sorry.
I have some other questions if we want to do that. We still have
Yes, yes,
questions?
go ahead, ma'am.
And I don't know, Tom, this may be in the weeds and maybe I just need to sit down with you, but just some questions within the contract. It says on page 5, final development of details related to building systems and finishes. But then on the next 2 pages away, it says the scope of the work excludes furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So
Right. Finishes are, molding, paint and that kind of stuff. One of the things we did have to take out of the contract was the furniture and fixtures. I think it was about like $75,000 for design of furniture and fixtures. And we just felt, police department can go through a catalog, pick what they want and put it in.
does that affect how they design the space though, having that knowledge of how you're going to
Not at all.
implement it? No.
Not at all.
Okay.
One of the things that's been said is down the road, the police department is going to get better. That's making the assumption that all those policemen are going to be there at the same time. Nothing could be further from the truth. They're out patrolling. They come in, end of the day, they'll do their reports, but they're out of there. So you're never going to have a time except for a meeting that all of them are going to be there sitting around looking for a place to sit. That ain't going to happen.
Actually, they do the reports in the car. That's what the computer's for.
Not my level of expertise at all.
Is the telecommunications design, is that including all like what I might call AV and all of that? That's the whole thing.
Right. A lot of that is the AV package that will be upstairs in the public meeting space. So Cheyenne can operate. It's actually, I think the plan includes like a little elevated station in the back corner where she can control everything, built-in cameras, that kind of stuff.
And would include all the special stuff that police need downstairs.
Correct.
And we would not have what we have here of wires all over the place because they are going to build that into the infrastructure of the building using hollowed out beams, not columns, and hollowed out chair railing, and all the wiring will be go through that. So they had that conversation with us when we were over there, and so that it would look neat and not distract from the historical aspects of the building.
And the contract that's in there it's labeled draft repeatedly. It's a draft AIA, which is in the Architectural Association's draft contract. If there's things in there that people don't like or do like, that's why it's called draft. It's there for changes that we make to it as part of the approval.
Is there any other comments?
I think that we just asked to add this to the Thursday agenda as just a point of discussion and potentially a vote for Thursday. I think since we've already had the presentation.
And I'll say that Tom will be out on Thursday. So, I mean, I can certainly talk through the financing and other aspects, but if there are more technical things that you'd like him here for, we need to push that to November.
The only other question I had was you mentioning that the design part was like 350,000. And would it be this isn't something for you to answer right now. My question would be, and I think Alderman Kelly was indicating that, could we parse that out so that the rest of the timeline wasn't running necessarily till we decided? So I'm just wondering if that's something that would then give the flexibility to
I could
get
ask
the
I could ask the
financing
question.
information and all the different things.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm lost.
Just as a way to be able to get the design documents, as he said, you need design documents to go forward, rather than committing to the actual timeline that's in this contract. You know, it would give us the ability to wait or to pull the trigger on the rest of it. That's all. I mean, that's just a question.
Well, yes, I assume technically that's possible.
I mean, it's already built in. I mean, if until funding is secured for the construction, the cost and the timeline of them going forward with bidding and those aspects of it won't take place. So, you know, their first focus is going to be design, construction documents, architectural renderings, and that invoice will be paid out. As far as, you know, the other half of the dollars and timeline will not be happening until that's completed.
All right. So do I hear a motion? Rebecca Kelly?
I would like to move that we add this to the Thursday agenda for a potential vote with the ability for public comment prior to that.
Is there a second to that motion? There's a motion and a second. Is there any comment? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. The next one is the public hearing on Osprey Landing, Phase 4 annexation.
Ready? Good morning, Mayor, members of the board, and members of the public. I'm here today to present annexation petition ANX 2501, submitted for consideration by Bill Clark Homes of Wilmington, LLC. This request concerns Phase 4 of Osprey Landing subdivision. The petitioner is Bill Clark Homes of Wilmington, LLC, the owner and developer of Osprey Landing. The subject area is located at parcel 221-00028 in Brunswick County. This is part of an ongoing multi-phase residential development, portions of which are already inside the city limits. The petition is voluntary annexation under NC General Statute 160A-31. Phase 4 encompasses approximately 433,785 square feet or 9.96 acres. The property is currently zoned a planned unit development, which is a PUD. Utilities and easements have been noted on the survey, and the property will be served by Brunswick County's utility system. The parcel is contiguous to the existing Southport corporate limits, satisfying statutory requirements. A certificate of sufficiency has been prepared, confirming that the petition meets the standards of General Statute 160A-31. The annexation plat has been certified by a licensed surveyor in compliance with General Statute 47-30. Annexation will bring in addition 9.96 acres of residential land into the city's jurisdiction. 43 lots are proposed on the plat. As development proceeds, the city will assume responsibility for providing municipal services such as police, fire protection, sanitation, and planning oversight. Roads, however, will remain private. The annexation will contribute to the city's ad valorem tax base as new homes are built and occupied. Let's see. Staff recommends that this request is consistent with the city's growth patterns and service capabilities. The annexation is voluntary, legally sufficient, and will further incorporate a portion of an existing subdivision into the city of Southport. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Tori, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You said the roads would remain private. Are all those, maybe I've forgotten this, are all of those roads going to be private forever, or are they going to be turned over, hopefully turned over to the city?
As far as I'm aware, they are going to remain private.
Okay, I don't recall that conversation. All right, so is there word, should I have any, I'll follow up with you later on my other question. Is there a motion to pass the, I'm sorry, I have to do something first. I apologize. I would entertain a motion for a public hearing. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second on a public hearing. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Is not. The public hearing is now open on the annexation. Is there anybody here who is here to speak on behalf of the annexation issue? Not seeing any or hearing any, I would move to entertain a motion to come out of the public hearing, close it. The motion is second. Any conversation? Not hearing any. Is there any, all in favor, please say aye. Alderman Carroll? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Then I'll entertain a motion to do the annexation part. I'm sorry. It's
Motion to approve the annexation as presented, ordinance.
So moved.
that's the only wording we need? Okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any conversation?
I'm thankful that
I would
people
just
are
say
not-
that in the past, we've agreed that we would not hold a vote on the same day as a public hearing. I believe that's the case. And if I'm mistaken, I apologize.
That's correct.
Is there some controversy about this issue that we can't do it?
I have none.
Okay. Any comments?
My comment is this, although I oppose this development and have voted no on many of the aspects of it, annexation, at least we get something out of it. So I'm ready to vote down.
Okay. My only comment is I drove around and the pricing of those houses there apparently is in the same market of people with families. There's baby carriages, there's kids, there's people sitting outside. It is exactly what we've been looking for. But with that said, all in favor of the annexation, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kerr? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next agenda item is the manager's report.
I would just like to talk a few minutes about the events of last Saturday, the tragic events that we experienced. Certainly none of us ever thought that we would receive that call and have to respond to that here in Southport. So I just want to again uplift the families and the victims of the tragic event. I'm particularly grateful to our first responders, our police, our fire, and our EMS who were first on scene to arrive and respond, as well as all of our other local, state, and federal partners, in particular Oak Island, who were there to apprehend the suspect. Even those who were there at the American Fish Company who did not wear a uniform, but who stepped up to assist the victims in their time of need. So we are certainly grateful to them for their help. So, I think this event has, brought the community together through the last week, and I hope that it will continue to do so to uplift the families and continue to remember what is most important to us here in our small, close-knit community. So I would ask that you continue to uplift the families and our first responders as they recover from this event, and I know we will continue to be Southport strong and resilient through this event going forward. Thank you.
The next topic is the mayor's comments. I'm going to look at, I thank Noah for doing that, and I'm sure it's the sentiment of the entire board. I want to comment on the events that took place and brought the town together, the city together. We had the prayer vigil on Sunday night. I estimate, I think other people have estimated 1,000 people. The only reason there weren't more than 1,000 people is they were standing out on the street. So it was the city came together. Yesterday we had another remembrance out here on the lawn. I didn't do a head count, but close to that same number of people showed up for that event. I want to thank the manager for making sure that we had the support team, that they don't respond here unless they're asked to do so. And they were there, and they were standing out there by American Fish for days. They engaged lots of people, and they just didn't come up and push themselves on people. They waited to look to see what the reaction of the person was, and then they went up to talk to them. It was very well done. I have nothing but compliments for that organization. As we move forward, we have to make sure that and I know the manager's already on top of all of this, and so is the police chief and fire chief. We give support to our first responders who responded to the event, and I'm sure Sheriff Chisholm is doing the same thing for his people. Anyways, if there's anything in this whole thing that could even be considered a positive, and obviously the event is going to be a scar on Southport, and we'll always remember it, but we do need to move forward. When tragic events happen, it's best when the businesses start to open up. I know some of the businesses have gotten some people more mad at them. I totally disagree. If you've been through these events before, getting back into life is the best therapy for most of us. And we have available other resources for people who are going to continue to struggle with this. So those are my comments. Thank you. I'll start with Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you, Mayor. I think all of us feel a lot the same way. The loss of life, the injuries, and the trauma inflicted on neighbors is really difficult. Our hearts are with the victims and their families and everyone affected. Our first responders, they saved lives by their actions, and their community is greatly thankful. I'm sorry. But I feel like moments like this also call for more than just words. I would like us to consider a resolution to send to our legislators and our governor, thank you, to ask for respectful, honest conversations and to respond to the urgent need for expanded mental health resources, especially for veterans and others in crisis. We will remember the names and the lives of the people lost. We will honor them, and through meaningful action, we must also take care of one another. In the days ahead, please remember to check on your neighbors. If you're struggling, reach out for help. We all will walk this road together.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Davis?
I have a couple of things to bring up, but I'd like to start with, on Sundays, I do 2 church services. And the second one is Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon. It is a Zoom service for one of the Episcopal churches in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands. What used to be the church is still a shambles after the 2017 double whammy from 2 Category 5s. Irma and Maria, known to the people in the Virgin Islands as Irma-Ria. I mean, just a condensed name. It's a condensed hit. Well, anyway, at both of those churches, already in the bulletin and the prayers were prayers for Southport. We are in other people's thoughts. We are in other people's prayers. And for that, we can all be grateful, because what we can't see can still lift us up. That said, to set the record straight, something has come up a number of times, both in print, in letters to the editor, and in public comments here. And it is about our decision-making process on moving forward with taking the old courthouse / old city hall for the police station and aldermen and other boards use. It's been said over and over that we did this, that we refused, or that we just did not meet as requested. Well, yes, apparently it was December, or perhaps before that, the previous group interested in using the building for arts. I don't know if I don't know exactly how that happened, but in December, a new board was here and was introduced to us. The chairman, Mark Bashara, introduced everybody and talked about what their thoughts were and what they wanted to do with the building, and said that they wanted to meet with us privately. Did not use that word privately, but said that the Arts Council, that's not the full name, but shorthand, the Arts Council would like to sit down with the Board of Aldermen and work out a plan for how to do this and so on, without the public. Just have let's all get together and talk about this.
Could you please sit down? Thank you. Ma'am, you had your opportunity to speak on this topic. If you continue, I'll have to ask you to leave, okay?
We pointed out that we can't do that. That's an illegal meeting. And he accepted that. And we agreed that he would come back, and members of the board with him would come back. I believe it's in February. And he did. It was a long meeting. And I believe it was March. The city manager at the time, that was Bonnie Theron, and I think it was the finance director, gave him a sample of what a new lease would look like. We understood that there was no effort to buy the building from us or that we would be signing over a deed, but it would be a lease. And we did not get that lease back. We did not get feedback on that lease. So then he came again. There's another long meeting. We had a lot of questions, and there were board members here who each got up. I remember one, I had never met the guy before. I was very impressed with his presentation, but we walked away from this understanding that there were non-negotiables that may not ever be resolvable. The non-negotiable that Attorney Bashara mentioned was that they could not make it work without having the upstairs. I am quoting him. And he said, well, and Alderman Carroll made the suggestion, well, what about if we, the aldermen and the other city boards, have it until 5 o'clock on Friday, and then we take it back on Monday for, take it back in the sense of using it, and the council have it for the weekend. He said he would think about that. The board would think about that. We left this as both sides would think about the non-negotiables. And I'm trying to think, I think that was April. And then we had not heard back. And we then made our decision, not just willy-nilly. There was a lot going on. We had to find out a lot of stuff, but we ended up saying that we voted that we would that the old city hall, old courthouse would be for city use only. So there's a lot of discussion, but the continued attack on the board on the basis, the false accusation that we made this decision without meeting with the council. The spokesman for the council, Mark Bashara, was before us 4 times. And we could not meet in any kind of caucus or anything like that. But there were other members of his board every time he was here. And all of this is recorded. I hope that any of you who have a lot of spare time on your hands will go back and look at the meetings that I'm referring to. I wasn't anticipating talking about this today, so I didn't bring with me the dates of the meetings that I'm referring to, but they are there. And so it is unfortunate that this is still being talked about as our lack of transparency, or we're being accused of lack of transparency, of not giving a nonprofit a chance, and so on. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Alderman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of things. I just wanted to say first that your comments and Noah's comments are about what happened last weekend. And what came out of that is I am very proud of our community. I'm very proud of our board and how we supported our community. And I just thank all of you that are sitting up there. I think city staff, Noah was out there immediately, boots on the ground. Our police and fire chiefs and their employees. It really means a lot. And then to piggyback on what Lo Davis said, I don't understand I don't have the timeline in front of me, but what I will say is that as a whole, I hope that our board and our community can work a little stronger to stop undermining the decisions of the board. When we've made the decision, may not go in our favor, we may not agree with it, but at the end of the day, the decision's been made. We need to support it and we need to move forward in the most positive way possible. And so I would just encourage us that as we continue to move forward, as we move into a new, perhaps a new board, that as a community, we just stop undermining the decisions that have been made.
Alderman Kelly.
I'd like to thank Robert for that comment. I think that this board, as much as we disagree with each other, we argue at the table, we come to a middle ground in most cases, and we walk away from this table having made a decision that was not an easy one in many cases. So we've made a commitment to the citizens of Southport that we are looking out for the best interests of the city and of the citizens. And in doing that, sometimes we get very passionate about what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, when the decision is made, we all have to work together going forward to make that happen. And the staff is tasked with putting that into place. And I think it is not great for anyone, including the staff who is then moving forward with those decisions, to hear the rhetoric that comes with undermining what has already been decided. So that's one thing, and I wasn't planning to talk about that, but here we go. I'd like to echo the sentiment of the mayor and the city manager about how proud I am of our city staff and first responders and the county staff and first responders who were not only there that night on scene, but also on Oak Island. And as you've probably heard now, there have been first responders not only throughout Brunswick County, but also in New Hanover County, who stopped traffic for the ambulances to get to the hospitals as quickly as possible. And that was done without anybody asking them to do it. They just did it because it was the right thing to do. And that speaks volumes for our community and how we come together. I wrote a post on Facebook earlier or I guess last week. I'm not going to go into that, but my feeling basically is I'm proud of how our community is coming together after this. That being said, I will say on October 18th, and this is from Facebook, there will be a day of healing and hope down at the Yacht Basin. It's a full day event where there will be food from the restaurant, 7 bands from Southport and Oak Island, basket raffle, wine pull, and all proceeds go to the victims of the American Fish Company shooting, all of them. That again is going to be Saturday, October 18th. And the first band is the Doorsmen. They start at noon that day. So it will be another opportunity for our community to come together and show up. And I thought it was poetic that the first official fundraiser was done at the Mullet. And I felt like that kind of reopened the Yacht Basin. And I thought that Provision Company opening the next day was really a wonderful way to invite Southport back to the Yacht Basin. So I thank all of the business owners who are leading the charge to try and take us back to normalcy as well. Thank you.
Alderman Spencer.
Thank you, sir. There are a lot of thoughts going on in my mind, and primarily our thoughts and prayers are with the individuals that were affected by this tragic incident. I've been visiting with a lot of friends who are gathering. They're gathering just like it was with 9/11. Everybody just can't believe what has happened. My remarks are written here because I'm scattered and I've got a lot of emotions. This is my hometown. I never dreamed of anything like this, but maybe I'm not dreaming, maybe my perspective's not correct. Southport has experienced a tragic incident, one that will affect our way of life in the near future more than any zoning issue or regulation ever could. The events will be ingrained in the back of our minds. It will test who we are as a community. People have always had their own perspectives about Southport, shaped by their experiences, their lessons, and their upbringing. We all see this town through our own lens. But today, I submit to you that those perspectives have all been shaken to the core. We're questioning our sense of safety, our city, our future. For the first time in a long time, we share a united realization, even here in Southport. Terrible things can happen. I'm not always happy about the way Southport has become. I can't blame the people who gather and enjoy the bands or are wonderful or our sense of place. But our focus must be on something deeper. How we as a society let a troubled young man, a casualty of war, slip through the cracks. Someone who served his country but came home damaged. Numerous phone calls, reports, and warnings. The system failed to prevent this tragedy. Law enforcement did what they could. They've been warning each other as recently in the spring about this individual. And I know from my time around government, these men and women do the best that they can with the tools they have. High turnover, low pay, make it already a difficult job even harder. I believe the Oak Island police tried to intervene, but they didn't have the mental health resources that used to exist in our state. North Carolina must approve red flag laws, laws that allow authorities to remove firearms from those who are mentally unstable or clearly in crisis. We also need to promote halfway houses and rehabilitation services locally. Southport cannot be a not in my backyard town, a place where only the successful are welcome. This is not just about Southport's growth or its building. It's about the social infrastructure we must build to care for our neighbors. Again, our perspectives are formed by our opinions of how we view the world. Our perspectives are subjective. They're shaped by our own experiences. My perspectives from growing up here, I remember a time when you could leave your truck unlocked and never think twice about it. As a child, I learned lessons from this town. I remember when there was a car wreck decades ago where many lives were lost. The wreckage was displayed for all to see to remind us that actions have consequences. For me, Southport has always been a safe place, a place that teaches accountability, where if you hurt someone, through your actions, you faced it and you learned from it. Fast forward today, what will Levi and the other young people of Southport remember from this time? What will they grow up believing that Southport is? Will they grow up believing that Southport is still a place to build a family, get an education, and live a good life? It's going to take a generation to heal from this event, not because of our city, but because of one troubled person. But we can't ignore that there are others, people living amongst us who are struggling, who need help, who need to be seen, heard, and cared for. The challenge before us is how we address their needs and how we care about their outcomes. Southport will rise again, not through fear, but through compassion, vigilance, and unity. Let us honor the victims by rebuilding trust, by strengthening the systems that failed, and by never losing sight of what makes this place home. Thank you.
Alderman Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking Chief Drew, Chief Corian, and all the people that responded. We had a tragedy the other night, and that will be with us forever. You will never get it out of your mind. There never will be such a thing as it doesn't happen. It's going to be with you forever. I've had another similar incident, not quite that bad, but it's going to be with you forever. Now, one of the points I made early on when we were talking about budgeting, we have our first responders We have some on site. We can get people there in 3 or 4 minutes as opposed to getting them in from the county 10, 15 minutes. This was a perfect example of when that was absolutely necessary. Don't know if it helped, but it was necessary. Now, mental health. We've got to do something about that. I've got 2 relatives that are psychiatrists. They work mainly with veterans. They are overwhelmed. They can't handle everybody. Now, when I was a young man in North Carolina, there were 2 places that had mental health. One was Dix Hill in Raleigh, one was Cherry Hospital in Goldsboro. Those are gone. They decided at some point in time they're going to start mainstreaming everybody. We've got a lot of people out there that need mental health. They need intervention. And for whatever reason, we've chosen to ignore it until something like this happens. You know, that's a shame in this country with the health resources that we have, and we don't take care of those people that have a mental issue. Shame on us. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the board's indulgence for a moment. Karen, would you be so kind as to follow up with the manager on your proclamation that you talked about? So we can look at that, okay? All right. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. In pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.113 to consult with our attorney. I want to make sure that we're all very clear on this. Whenever the board goes into closed session, we come back out, because most of the people aren't here when we do this. We come back out and we come out of closed session, which means that we're in open session, which means something can actually take place. Whether something's going to take place today or not, I don't know. But I want to make sure that it's clear that if today, some other time, we come out of closed session, we take action, it is not to be non-transparent. I'm just letting you know. It will always be recorded. That whole last part of the meeting is recorded. I know that Mr. Pope knows that because he looks at these tapes when he's doing his articles and stuff. So I just want to point that out to you. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to speak to our attorney.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Actually, yes. Following up on what you just said, the reason we're going into closed session, the topic of the closed session, is not necessarily something that we have to keep confidential. And I've looked back at old minutes, and particularly in the time of Robert Howard, he did an excellent job of explaining why they were going into closed session. And when they came back out, very often they would take a vote, but he would summarize again what had happened to the extent that he could. Now, when you're hearing advice from an attorney and the attorney says something like, well, I don't advise you to do that because if you do it, you'll get sued and you'll lose, something like that. You don't want to make that public. But the advice, negotiating advice and so on, that's certainly confidential. But today, if I am correct, this is about the alleyways. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Well, the topic is already in the public. And and in fact, it's become a political, fireball, really. And at the last Thursday night meeting last month, in public comment, 2 people, 2 citizens, one who lives on North Atlantic and one who has a business on North Howe. The business is the sourdough bakery, and the property owner who backs up to an alleyway, faces toward North Atlantic, and that's a residence. The alleyway goes from Owens over to, is that 8th? Yes, 8th. And it's been an alleyway that's in use. And I have a personal knowledge of that. And what had come to what two citizens brought to us were, and I don't even know if they know each other, but the gentleman who has the property on North Atlantic said that he could not have a garage because he had discovered that the alleyway had been taken as private property, and therefore he would not have a way of accessing a garage that he hoped to build. The gentleman who has the sourdough bakery did not come to us in person. He came to us, he sent a letter which was read aloud, which is commonplace at our meetings. And he complained that he had had a delivery truck that he wanted to bring down the alleyway with supplies. So, and then he went on to describe a very emotionally charged incident. And what the essence of that he was bringing to our attention was that a public property, which is the alley, had been taken over and a deed had been filed by private individuals. And he went on to point out that the private individuals were, in fact, the sitting mayor at the time, that was Mayor Halem, and his wife had filed in court a deed to the alleyway. All of this is public record. So I am not talking about something that is confidential. What we're going into closed session is to find out what the heck, because I don't even know what the full story is with alleyways. This has come up before the board multiple times in my 6 years on the board. And every time we have said no to people who wanted to find a way to take ownership of the part of the alleyway, at least that was behind their house. So we don't know what the whole story is. That's what we're going to find out today. But I'm bringing this up now because A, it's already in the public domain. It was made public. Second, it has become a really nasty set of accusations the accusations are that this was all engineered by our current mayor, Mayor Alt, who has informed the board that he knew nothing about this until Mr. Gosh, I don't remember his name, the sourdough bakery owner called him and said, can you come down to my office? I want to discuss something with you, and I have copies of some documents I want to show you. And that was just a few days before our public meeting. That was the first that Mayor Alt knew about this. We went into closed session so he could inform the board. And first words out of his mouth were, this is going to be very hard because it will become very political. I have to bring it before you because we have two citizens now who feel that they have been deprived of use of public property.
Alderman
Okay.
Davis, I think you need to stop
All right.
about that conversation, please.
That, yes,
I would
I
like to
should
make
not
a
have said that
statement,
part.
if I can, since we're in discussion. I think it's important to note that Alderman Davis misused some terms. It was not a deed that was recorded, but instead it was a declaration of withdrawal. And I think it's also important to note that neither staff nor our city attorney reached out to Mr. and Mrs. Hayden prior to engaging an attorney to research the legalities of the document.
I imagine all this will be under discussion in our closed session. Am I right?
Can't talk.
I think that in the interest of transparency, which we're constantly being criticized for not doing and not having, that people should know why we are going into closed sessions.
Is there any other comment? Not hearing any. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor to go into closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We're in closed session. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to come out of a closed session.
So move.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We're out of closed session.
I would like to make a motion. Before we went into closed session, we informed you of what we would be, the topic of conversation, and we did hear a great deal from the attorney that we hired to look into this. And as a result, I'm sorry? Okay. I make a motion to direct the city attorney to file a notice of withdrawal letter regarding the declaration of withdrawal filed for 109 East Owen Street.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any conversation?
What this means is that we wish to make sure that the city retains ownership of the alley.
Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any conversation? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.